Now today I thought we'd have a chat about some of the marketing spin put out by high-end teardrop and square drop manufacturers and those people that support them, stating that their campers are superior because they don't have any timber in their construction. If what they state is true, the traditional timber-based teardrop and square drop campers, no one would buy them anymore. Yet, the manufacturers of them have never been busier. And if you're new to the scene and you're looking to buy your first teardrop and square drop, I personally feel that a traditional timber-based teardrop or square drop that's clad in, aluminium, fiberglass, composite aluminium sheet could be a far, far better buy for you than spending 2 or 3 times as much on a high-end teardrop or square drop. So stay tuned. Let's do a bit of a deep dive into that today. Hey guys, I'm Daryl. Welcome to the channel. That's right, today we're going to have a look at, I suppose in a roundabout fashion, some of the claims made by the high-end teardrop and square drop manufacturers. And they're the manufacturers that build out of composite sheet and not just the 3mm composite aluminium. We're talking 25 to 50mm composite sheet, or they're making one-piece fiberglass shells in their campers. And there's a few low-end campers that are doing that too, but the rest of the campers aren't stacking up. But they're making the claims that their campers are so much better because they don't have timber in the construction. And I've heard it said many times, especially by a very large Australian-based caravan manufacturer, that timber is a rubbish material. It's not. And especially when we look at teardrop and square drop construction compared to caravan construction. Caravan construction, when they're building a timber wall, they build a frame, and that frame looks like a very lightweight house frame. Now, a lot of those guys are moving over to aluminium construction, so they're making an aluminium frame, which is really light, and they get their strength when the frame's put together and clad. With teardrops and square drops, we don't make those types of frames, or most manufacturers don't. Most manufacturers will just use a solid plywood wall and a solid plywood floor, and it'll be cut out to shape. They'll be attached to each other. They'll have either hardwood or aluminium spars that run from the top edges to top edges on the walls, and then the whole thing will be clad in either aluminium sheet, fiberglass or plastic sheet, or composite aluminium sheet. And that composite aluminium would be a 3mm thick or 4mm thick version. We're not going to talk about teardrops and square drops that have exposed timber on them. So today we're not talking about the home built, I've painted it with house paint, I've done the poor man's fiberglass. We're not talking about those. We're just talking about timber-based teardrops and square drop construction that is clad in one of those materials previously mentioned. Now, what brought some of this on was I'm hearing more and more about this, and every time I hear it, it's the same old saying. You look at the clock on the wall and you think, it's bullshit o'clock. There's an element of truth in all of the marketing spin, but they don't tell you everything. For instance, when a manufacturer tells you that we've got a one-piece fiberglass shell, so that means you don't have the joins that a typical traditional build teardrop or square drop would have. Generally those joins are between the walls and the roof. You'd put a capping on it and you'd fill it with a sealant, a waterproof sealant like Sikaflex or whatever. Whatever your choice of sealant is. Now those sealants have come a long way, and I'd expect that you'd probably get 10 years or more. And if you keep your teardrop or square drop in a garage or undercover or with a cover over the top of it, it just won't age when you've got it inside. Between trips, if your teardrop or square drop is outside 24/7, it's UV rays that kill sealants. Back to the story, the one-piece fiberglass guys are saying, well, because we don't have these seams, you don't have to maintain them, which is true. So I'm not going to argue over that. What they don't then go into is that if they have windows, if they have hatches, if they've got a roof hatch, if they've got an air conditioner on the roof, if they've got you know, a hatch on the side that opens to a storage area, if they have an off-the-shelf door that they use. And so most of them have two doors, so if they've got two off-the-shelf doors where they cut a hole and fit the door. And all of these items require the same maintenance as the traditional teardrop or square drop. It just is that, because you're still cutting holes in whatever the shell is, you're still mounting third-party objects in there, be it window, hatch, air conditioner, door, whatever. They still need to be sealed, and they all suffer over a time period from UV degradation of whatever sealant you use to seal up the edges of these items so they don't leak. So at a certain point, on any teardrop or square drop or caravan, it doesn't matter what the construction is, all of these third-party items that go through the shell will need to be resealed. And it may be 10 years, it may be 15 years, but at some point the windows, the doors, the roof hatches, any storage hatches would need to be removed and cleaned, all the edges cleaned and resealed. And you'd probably get another 10, 15, 20 years out of it. Anything needs maintenance. It doesn't matter what it is. There's no such thing as a camper, caravan, teardrop or square drop that doesn't need maintenance. And if we look at the composite manufacturers that are using, you know, the thick composite sheets, if you don't polish them and you leave them outside, the fiberglass will suffer from UV and it'll go chalky, it'll lose its sheen. So you need to keep them polished like anything else that's out in the sun. And it got to the point the other day where in the Australian YouTube market, there's a whole heap of travelling families, and there's so many of them now, and they're all trying to do something different, but all go to the same place ultimately. And they tend to get a new caravan every year, a lot of them, and there's some tax implications of that. You know, you've got capital investment in your company and blah, blah, blah. You can write things off over X amount of time. The manufacturer that you support and they support you like to see you in their latest caravan, so every year. But every year the caravan is leading edge, stuff never seen on the Australian market before. The sayings are quite amusing. But the laughable thing is, they got to the inside and they'd been sprouting on about, oh, this thing could fill up with water, it wouldn't matter because there's no timber in it. And the next thing they showed you the furniture going in, the whole interior fit out. And it was all the same material that I've used in my camper. It was all lightweight caravan plywood that's faced on both sides with a plastic skin. It's full of plywood. And the marketing spin is no plywood in the manufacture of this, except what they don't tell you is all the furniture, all the inside fit out is plywood. So why make a big thing about it? It is hugely amusing. But anyway, but back onto this video, because I've gone off on a tangent far too much. Let's have a look at pricing of traditional teardrops, because there's huge savings to be made. Maintenance on them. Where people are taking them, there's thousands of them. Traditional teardrop based construction, timber construction in Australia, and people are taking them everywhere. So we'll have a look at that. And how long can we expect? I'll show you an example that is still on the road, that came into a manufacturer, it's their first camper. And did it come in for maintenance? Did it come in for wood rot? No, it came in for upgrades. So we'll have a look at that too. Okay, let's have a look at pricing of the traditional timber-based teardrop and square drops. We'll talk about a couple of manufacturers here mainly. And in the Australian market, there's two manufacturers that produce, I'd say, the bulk of the timber-based teardrops and square drops on the market. These are at the lower end, one's a bit lower than the other. And the first one is Travel Bug Teardrop Campers. They're a Queensland-based company. Their teardrops start at $15,500 and go up to $16,500. That's where they start and that's where they go to. Of course, you could option them up to your heart's the limit, but that's where they go. They also have another company called Adventure Man Teardrop Campers, where they do their more square drop type of teardrops. Again, they start at $14,500. They've got a Trekker that's $16,200, a High Country that's $17,200, and an X10 camper that's at $18,900. Now, don't get me wrong, these are fairly basic campers, but there's a whole heap of people out there using them. These two companies that I've just spoken about are family business, and they're always very busy. But every time you mention them, there's a whole heap of people put their hand up and go, I've got one of their campers, I love it, we've been to all these places. They don't mention issues that they have with maintenance, wood rot, or the camper falling apart. All of these campers, again, can be optioned up to whatever you like. The other manufacturer will be the Teardrop Camper Company. They're in New South Wales, not too far from where I am. Their campers are probably a little bit better finished than the other companies that I've spoken about. They've got a round-fronted, square-ended Brumby, $23,800. Brumby 121, $24,100. Brumby LS, $18,700. Grand Tourer GT, $29,900. That's a more traditional teardrop shape. And the Casbah, which is, again, a traditional teardrop shape, $20,499. And again, of course, you can option these up to wherever you want to go. Compare these two manufacturers to the manufacturers in Australia of composite campers. Composite campers in Australia for an on-road start around $45,000. The off-road version start at probably $55,000. So we're looking at, with all of these campers that I've just mentioned, half the cost, more. And both of these companies have hundreds of people who use their campers all over Australia. These things get sent all over Australia and they're using them everywhere. They're not concerned that they're of timber-based construction or they're of composite construction. They're not complaining about wood rot. They're not complaining about maintenance. They're not complaining about these things falling apart. Yes, I'll be the first ones to say that these campers are at the lower spectrum, but there's far more people that have got, you know, between $15,000 and $30,000 than those that have got $45,000 to $80,000. It's something to think about, and the savings you could put into a new tow vehicle, you could put into just going away. You could spend $10,000 on touring the country, and these campers, because they're so well known, command good resale value. And because you're only spending between $15,000 and $30,000, it's like cars. You can't lose that much on them because they don't cost that much in the first place. But both of these manufacturers also, they don't have the budget to go to the large camper van shows. You won't see them at the Sydney, Melbourne or Queensland shows, more than likely, because they don't have the money to spend on the marketing. But I'll tell you now that with the lack of marketing these guys do, they do a splattering of social media. Word of mouth drives their sales, and there's something to be said in that. So, something to consider. You can save yourself an absolute fortune by buying one of these timber-based traditional builds, and just think what you could do with the extra funds. Now, you you think if you buy the low end, you won't be able to take it to those places that you can take the upper end. Kinda not right. Here's an email that the Teardrop Camper Company in Sydney received from one of their clients. Hi Frank, I thought that I'd let you know how happy and pleased we are with our Brumby Teardrop camper we purchased from you in December 21. We have just returned from a 13,000 kilometre road trip from Kiama on the New South Wales south coast, across the Nullarbor, up the WA Goldfields Highway to Cargini National Park and back down the WA coast and returning to Kiama. Our camper was fantastic. And even though it was a road model, it served us so well. It was great to be able to pull up to the road stops for lunch or just for a coffee break and have our camper so accessible with our fridge being powered by a solar panel whilst driving along. The solar panel allowed us to stop at a few unpowered sites for quite a few days as well. We encountered lots of red fine dirt and sand, but the camper, while being pretty dirty on the outside, proved dust-proof in the cabin. That's a big thing. And kitchen, and so it was dust-proof in the cabin and kitchen, and it was great to be able to go to bed of a night in a clean room. Even some nights were pretty cold and our camper kept us warm in our sleeping bags and stood up to some strong winds. My wife and I had doubts about living in our little home for such a long period, almost 10 weeks. But it certainly provided us with a solid base to begin our days, then return to a nice, comfy and welcoming finish to the day. It did exceed our expectation and we are looking forward to our next adventure. Maybe not as far or as long. The Brumby has been so well built, and other than a few minor adjustments and self-done additions, we could not be happier. That's a fairly glowing testimony. Now, these people towed this thing with a Subaru, so they're not doing, wild off-road tracks or anything. But it just shows you what a road model camper towed by an SUV, where you can go in it. Like, these guys have gone out, had a ball, seen a whole heap of Australia, and what's that thing cost them? 25 grand. Not 80, not 100, not 70, not 60. It's probably been about 25 grand. Now, there's another company in WA called Cool Beans Campers. They still use traditional timber and aluminium construction. Heavy duty chassis though, leaf springs, not independent, off-road tyres. They're a true off-road model. Now, their campers are around the $48,000 mark and they're just absolutely gorgeous. The furniture they put into them, furniture quality levels of finish. The galley is gorgeous. The round side opening doors, absolutely gorgeous, very Instagrammable. But if you look at the Insta page, all these different campers being taken across all different parts of Australia. They're not falling apart, they're not rotting, their owners aren't sitting there, corking them up at the side of the road because they need to. And they're $48,000. Like, that's a lot of money still. And to be honest, when I get to this level, you're kind of also looking at some of the composite campers, hitch campers. Hitch campers make an absolutely gorgeous composite independent suspension camper. It starts at about 55k, but you'll probably be spending 60. But again, it's another $12,000 over this. But you're getting to that crossover point when you're spending that sort of money. But there's nothing wrong with these Cool Beans campers. I'm sure their owners absolutely love them. And anything with timber in it, as long as it's not over the top, has a much warmer feeling than getting into a composite camper that has white walls, white cupboards, and you feel as though you're getting into a portable cooler. Like you could be getting into a Yeti cooler. Yeah, and you need a little bit of timber, in my mind, no matter what the sort of camper you have. You need a little bit of timber in it to add some warmth. That's just where I am. And if I had a composite camper, the furniture and the like would be a laminated timber or something like that. But yeah, that's just personal opinion. But it just shows you though that the traditional timber construction, they're just as heavy duty and being able to take wherever you want as the composites. There's There's really no downside to it. And if you're thinking about an on-road camper but you want something a little bit upmarket, timber, base construction, aluminium clad, but you're after something that's pretty schmick. Wild Monkey Campers in Queensland, they've got 3 models. They start at 23,000, but their mid-range and top-end models are 35 and 37,000. Very well spec'd. The guy's a carpenter, well qualified. You can see he cares about what he does. There's some love gone into these campers. And the furniture, the kitchen and the inside furniture, the birch plywood walls and everything, these are absolutely top end, and they're the sorts of things that, like, they'll last you for generations if you look after them. Wild Monkey Campers, every time I see them, I'm just amazed at the quality of craftsmanship that go into them. So if you'd like something that pull up and you open up and you go, oh, this is really, really nice, you can't go past these things. Again though, the thing that's the same with all of these businesses, they're small, family-owned businesses, and the owner works in a business, and they all care for what they do. And they've all got loyal followings of people that have bought campers off them. If there was something wrong with these campers, you would hear it. You just would. You would hear it on the socials, and you don't. You hear nothing. All you see, and I'm sure there's stuff goes wrong, don't get me wrong, but it's handled in a way that the end customer still goes off happy. And that's the way it should be. But all of these campers, with the exception of the Cool Beans campers that's out of WA, that's 48 grand, they're all under 40 grand. Like, they're affordable. The ones that are 15 to 25, they're very affordable. And they will take you, and as I've shown with a couple who've done 13,000 Ks in their $25,000 camper, do you need more than that? It's something to really consider. Like, you could go off and go on an overseas holiday when you come back and still have more money in the bank. It's really something to consider. But all of these campers, how long would they last? Now, all of these timber-based, aluminium clad or fiberglass clad campers, how long do you think they're going to last? Do you think you'll get 5 or 10 years out of them? Travel Bug in Queensland, we've already spoken about the company. On their Facebook page in April 2023, there's a post. A quick note, it's nice to have Travel Bug #1 in the shop this week. This camper has so many stories to tell and many miles under her belt. She has brought tons of happy memories to her owners over the years, and we are stoked she is in here getting some awesome upgrades. Give her a wave if you see her about. This camper. Now, someone asked Mark how old this actual camper is, and it's a 2008 model. That's 16 years old. It's not into his shop to get rotted wood cut out of it. It's not in his shop because it's falling to pieces. It's in his shop for upgrades. And those upgrades could be some resealing. I don't know. I don't know what's involved. I'm only going on what I've seen on his Facebook page. What he also says, someone's asked how many have you built over the years. He said between 400 and 500 campers. 400 or 500 timber-based, aluminium-clad teardrop campers, teardrop and square drop campers. 400 or 500. We're not talking a guy in his backyard that churns out 2 a year for clients. We're talking a business that since 2008 has churned out 400 or 500 campers. And #1 is still on the road, and it's in getting some upgrades. How good is that? Like, you think about a 16-year-old caravan, and if you went and had a look at that, you would find some issues. Because these teardrops and square drops are so strong in their construction, even with ply, they last forever. And again, I'll reiterate the point, if you keep them, because they are small in size, you can keep them in your garage, you can keep them under a carport. Worst case scenario is you put a cover over them. But the best place is in a dry garage or a carport. But out of UV light between trips, these things will last you forever. And yeah, You're going to have some maintenance, but I won't bang on more about that. My hope in this video today was to give you an alternate viewpoint. And the takeaway is that teardrops and square drops are much stronger, of much better material than traditional timber framed caravans. Different kettle of fish whatsoever. The examples I've tried to give you today give you why you'd buy one on a price guide, why you'd buy one with a quality aspect, why you'd buy a traditional build for use, and longevity aspect. I've tried to give you real life case studies, and I hope that helps someone out there make a decision if you're in the market for a new teardrop or square drop from a manufacturer. That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.